Welcome to ClaimsForce. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create custom workflows. The purpose of a workflow is to automate a process. As an example, let's say ABC happens, and so I want to trigger an action of XYZ. A box is checked in the client or lead, and then I want that to, when that box is checked, I want it to create a task or trigger an email. Or update a related record. These are the purpose of workflows, and they really can help you automate any of your processes within ClaimsForce. To create a workflow, I'll show you a brief example. You go over here to the triple bar on the right and hit the Administration tab. And within Administration, you'll scroll down to the panel that says Customization and click on Workflows. And then here you'll create a rule. So the first thing you want to do is name your rule. So in this instance, as an example, I want to make it so that when I update a phone number in a lead, if that person is a client or a vendor or whatever, I want it to update the phone number in client so that I don't have the wrong phone number in client, or I don't have to go update it in two places. You know, I want it to be seamless. If I change it in client, I want it to update in lead and vice versa. So I'm just going to name this workflow update phone number from lead. Now the target entity here is whatever entity you're going to be starting with. Again, an entity is anything you see here up at the top: users, documents, tasks. It's any major piece of the system. And so you always have a starting point, which is going to be your target entity, and then you'll have your ending point, which will be your action, which we'll go over in just a minute. But in this case, if I want to update the phone number from the lead, if I want it to update the phone number in client, then I'm going to start in lead. So my target entity in this case is going to be lead. Next, you select your trigger type. There are 4 types of triggers. One, after record created, after record saved, scheduled, and sequential. The most common that you'll be using are after record created and after record saved, and I'll explain the difference. After record created means this is a workflow that's going to happen one time, and it's only going to happen, in this instance, it would only happen when I create the lead. Now, as I may change the phone number to my client later or to my lead later, after record created will not be the correct trigger type in this instance. In the majority of instances, your trigger type is going to be after record saved, meaning every time I update a lead or I'm working in my target entity, anytime I do anything in there and I hit save, I want the system to go and check to see if certain conditions or certain triggers are met. And if they are, then I want it to run the corresponding workflow. So in this instance, that's going to be after record saved. Scheduled can be like, if this box is checked, at the end of every day, I want all the boxes that are checked to trigger corresponding emails or generate, subsequent reports. That would be a scheduled trigger. So you're scheduling something to happen at a later time. Whereas these other triggers, after record created and after record saved, they're going to happen simultaneously in real time. And then, of course, sequential, meaning it'll happen after. So I'm going to do after record saved. If I check the box for portal only, then that means I'm only looking for these triggers or conditions to be met inside of a portal, which a portal is something that you can use for subcontractors or customers or clients that you want to see limited access and information, and maybe something that you're only looking for data entered on their end. That would be something you want to trigger internally. That's when you would check this box. You can have your description, so a lot of times I'll just copy paste, but you can put anything in there, especially if you're having a lot of workflows that are similar to one another. You may want to be detailed, because many times you'll come back and amend these workflows or update them or change them. Now the first part you have here is conditions, and these are going to be ultimately what trigger or cause this workflow to run. So in this instance, we have all conditions and we have any conditions. And these are pretty self-explanatory, right? So I have my all, which means everything has to be met. Any, meaning at least one of the following can be met. And you can have both. You can say I always need ABC to happen, but I don't want the workflow to run unless ABC and or DEF are checked or XYZ are checked, right? So that's why you would have those two categories. But in this instance, I'm going to update the phone number from the lead. So I'm starting in the lead. My condition is going to be the phone, right? I need to know that the phone is changed. And that's ultimately what's going to trigger this update. So a lot of times when you click on a field within your entity, it's going to give you, this drop-down will give you a variety of options. So I could say, I want this workflow to run anytime the phone number, doesn't equal 1234, right? However random you want to be. But in this case, we're looking for two things. We're looking for one, we don't want the phone number to be empty, because if the phone number is empty, we don't want it to update the client and make the client's phone number empty. So we want to make sure that, we want to make sure it's not empty. We also want to make sure that the phone number is changed, right? Because that's what's going to trigger the update. So I can have many conditions. I can have, I can have one condition or I can have 7 conditions. The more conditions you can have, the better, in the sense that if you only have, like for example, if I say the phone is not empty, this workflow can still run properly, and anytime the phone is not empty and the system saves, the system will go check to see if the phone number is different, and it's gonna save it. The number in lead is gonna save it in client. The problem with this is that if you have a lot of workflows like this with very limited basic conditions that are always going to be met, then your system's going to be working very hard to analyze all these processes, and it can eventually slow it down if you have too many. So the more descriptive you can be, the better. So in this case, I want to make sure that the phone is changed. All right, so when these two conditions are met, I want an action. So I want to come down here and hit the plus button. Now we've got a few different options. I can send an email, pretty self-explanatory. I can create a record, I can click create a record, and I can create different types of records. I can create a record from any entity. So I can say, if the phone number is changed, I want it to create an additional contact, with that phone number, right? I don't want to do that, obviously, but I could if I wanted to. I can update the target record, which means I'm updating the record that I'm working in. So if I update the phone number in lead, I want it to update the email in lead, or I want it to change the email address in lead. I want to update something else in lead. Or I can update a related record. Now in this case, leads and clients are interrelated. So in this case, I'm going to hit update related record. So in this case, I'm going to hit update related record, and I'm going to select my entity, which in this case is going to be contact. Clients in the system are hard-coded as contacts. Vendors in the system are hard-coded as accounts. Tickets in the system are hard-coded as cases. All right, so I'm going to come down here to account. I'm going to click on that, and now I'm going to add the field. I'm actually physically going to select the field that I want to update. So let's see if I can find, hopefully the phone number's on here. It should be. Phone. There we go. Now, I have two options anytime I add a field in my new record. I have value and I have field. Value is just saying anytime I update somebody's phone number, I want it to update the client's number, and I always want the client's number to be 234-123-1231, which obviously that doesn't make any sense. We don't want to do that. But there are certain instances where you will want to select a value, meaning if this box is checked, I want to create a related record telling me the same thing every time, go update this or go check on this. All right, so that would be value. What's going to be more frequent, though, is that you're going to select field. And what field is fetching data from another place, from another location. So in this case, I'm fetching data from, I'm going to hit this drop down. I'm going to say, okay, I want to update the client's phone number with the phone number from lead, which is the target entity that I'm working in. So I hit that, and I hit apply, and then I hit save, and I'm done. So what this means, in recap, anytime that the phone number in lead, because that's my target entity, is not empty and the phone number's been changed, then when that happens, it's going to update the client also known as a contact, with the corresponding phone number from lead. Now, one thing you'll see at the bottom of this workflow, if I'm going down to edit it, well, you won't see it while you edit it, but if you hit save, you'll see a log, and right now it's blank. But the log is a way for you to test to see if your workflows actually ran through the system. So obviously the first thing I can do is go check the phone number of the client when I update a lead and see if it works. But sometimes the number may not have updated in the client, but the log actually picked it up, which means maybe my conditions were correct, but maybe my actions were wrong. So the log is a way for you to kind of decipher and see where in the process your workflow went wrong or what needs to be fixed. Run the workflow as an example. So if I came over here to a test lead, all right. And all right, so I just converted this lead into a client. So I've got their phone number here. So if I come in here to edit, and I change this from 0220 to 1111, and I hit save. All right, now I can come in here to contact and see. Oh, look, there's my phone number. It updated. Fantastic. So now let's go just double check the workflow. Obviously, I know it worked, but just to show you, illustrate what that looks like. Come in here to the log, and it's showing me nothing. But all I had to do was refresh the page, and then I can see that test lead ran through the log. It was triggered by myself, Casey Klein, at 10:03 p.m. So there you have it. That is in a nutshell how to create a workflow and customize and automate your processes.